Hi everybody. Just have a little bit of feedback after reading some of the assignments for the first couple of weeks, particularly the discussion about the cycle of socialization. It's a fairly complex article, and it's something that we'll be coming back to over the course of the semester a whole bunch of times. So I just wanted to talk about a couple quick ideas that popped out. First of all, the idea of oppression can take subtle forms that are often hidden from view of privileged people, and that's kind of the point of privilege, is that most of us who have privileged social identities do not know what it's like or do not notice certain things that are impediments to other people as a result of certain social structures. For example, a white person might not have had to face direct racism or attacks based on skin color, and so might not completely understand what it means to deal with racism both on a personal level and on a systemic level that deals with laws and how society is constructed. Another thing too, like able-bodied people might not have had to face certain things that people with disabilities have had to face. You might not have noticed the necessity for ramps to buildings if you've never had a disability. I noticed that when I was taking care of my infant son for a while, that it was very helpful even for moms and dads who have small children who have to push strollers into buildings, that some of those ramps are very helpful as well. So that's the idea of privilege, that like privileged people don't necessarily have unchallenging lives, right? People who are privileged, not everything is easy. It just means that there's a few things that maybe there's a few less impediments toward getting things done. Privileged people still have to work hard, right? I have a lot of privileged social identities, being white, male, able-bodied, etc. But I still have to work really hard for what I get and for what I do. It's just possible that maybe I've made more advancements in my life because I didn't have as many impediments in the way. And so that's something to consider too. Also, the idea of guilt. Guilt can be worth something, right? If you're starting to feel guilty reading about some of these societal problems, it means that you have, moral conscience, that you see something that is probably not working correctly or might even be wrong. But we're born into something that's out of our control. So there are things that we might feel guilty for that we don't need to feel guilty for unless we ignore them in the future. Once we're made aware of them, then if you choose to have willful ignorance and not try to make some sort of changes, or at least acknowledge that there's problems that exist, that's when it becomes a problem. So, when can you start to take some control over that? It's a good question to think about. Also, this article is about identifying power structures. It's not just about the personal level of looking at yourself and how you behave or what you believe. It's about the societal and the structural pressures that are put on you depending on your social identities that push you into doing things or not doing things. So we cannot figure out how to dismantle power structures if they aren't identified first. And this article will help us identify those power structures and start to address those over the course of the semester. So that's a little bit about the content. And then also something else that I want to look at is the idea of grading. First of all, don't forget to review the discussion rubric in course documents to make sure that you're doing the discussion correctly. Most people did a good job, but a few people forgot to respond enough times, or a few people forgot to make really direct connections to the text. I need to see evidence that you read the full text and understood it and wrestled with it. So make sure you do that, not just mentioning it. That means integrating specific quotes, concepts, and ideas from the readings in the initial post and in the responses to classmates. Another thing, you can pick up some partial credit points by revisiting earlier discussion boards and responding to classmates. If you ran out of time or something, I can still give you half credit for those for a few weeks after they're due, because I think that conversation can continue and is still important if it continues. And just a couple quick nuts and bolts. Don't forget that theories are just useful tools for examining things. They're not necessarily 100% true, right? That's why they're a theory and not fact. But these particular theories we're looking at in class have been tested by time over the course of a couple of decades, and this idea of socialization has proven to be really helpful for a lot of people. So it's a useful tool for analyzing or a helpful lens for looking at things. And one last thing too, there's a lot of readings for week 3. Most of them are quite short, and they're written in more of like a journalistic newspaper style. So you'll be looking to glean facts from them because they're things that have come up over the course of a couple years regarding refugee resettlement and things related to the Trump administration's travel ban and how that has affected refugees both here in the Boise community and around the country. So it's a good way to gain knowledge and a base for discussing projects that we'll start working on moving forward. That's all I have to say for now. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me by text or by phone or by email, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. Hope everything's going well out there in cyberland, or whatever you want to call it, cyberspace. And thanks for your participation the first couple of weeks. See you later.